Hello and welcome to People First by AllVoices. I am your host, Jeffrey Fermin. I am the head of demand gen over here at AllVoices, and with me, I am joined by the illustrious Kat Kibben. She is of 3 Ears Media, which she's going to tell us the origin of that name. I specifically asked her to do it because I love dogs. Spoiler alert. Kat, let's give yourself a proper introduction and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Kat Kibben. I'm a speaker and a thinker, and I run a company called 3 Ears Media. We primarily help people learn how to create better processes and better job architecture so that they can hire the right people. And as you mentioned, 3 Ears Media is named after two dogs with 4 ears that are pictured right here.
Um, as if someone's a repeat visitor over here, they'll know we kind of love our pets. Feel free to bring them in if they kind of storm into the room. We kindly support all animals over here at All Voices.
Of course.
Yeah, so Kat, you've been in the recruitment space for quite some time. Love to hear more about your background, how you got into it, and why inclusion plays such a key role with what you're doing.
Yeah, so my story goes back to monster.com. I was one of those people early. I was the very first social media hire at monster.com. And that kind of started my career on the side of HR technology companies. And I really worked my way up as a marketer inside of those businesses, helping to understand the relationship between recruiters, candidates, and technology. How do we all talk to each other? How do people find jobs? And from there, I became a managing editor of a blog all about recruiting, where I unintentionally got a PhD in recruiting by talking to smart people and writing about it every single day. I always joke that there's no recruiter degree, but that's about as close as you get to it. It's just talking to people constantly and learning how they're doing it. And as every good practitioner knows, that once you kind of get the itch, you learn so much about doing something. You're like, I'll try. And after many, many years of learning about these relationships and how they all work, I became a technical copywriter for a company that served Fortune 500s in recruiting because they were starting their own employer brand agency. And with all of those skills and technical copywriting really being the string through the middle, I created 3 Years Media with actually no idea what I was going to do. I stumbled into job postings, and I think that was my first introduction to really understanding inclusion because I got so obsessed with why job postings were bad, how we could do better, and trying to deeply understand them that I took a step back and I was like, wait, are these actually stopping people from finding jobs? And the more I dug into the history of job postings, the more that I found that job postings were actually adding a lot of discriminatory practices, not removing them.
Very interesting because lately there's been a lot of chatter around how AI is really disrupting, and I mean that truly in the origin of the word disrupting. It's like messing up hiring. We're having a lot of issues. We've talked about it a little bit on this podcast before, but do you feel like some of that language could eventually maybe block out people that are going after these jobs when they're hunting? Like, could we be using AI and the descriptions, maybe have a bias that could be, kicking people out of job applications?
That's exactly why I'm telling everyone to slow down on the adopting AI generated job postings. Now, this is not out of like self protection here either, because I have no interest in rewriting your job postings one by one. But the reality here is that you need to understand the data set anytime you adopt new AI technology. And the problem is exactly what you just said. Our data set for writing a better job posting are all the job posts that are on the internet. And if you and I were sitting in front of a very large crowd right now, and I would say, who here has read a bad job posting before? Thank you. We know every single hand in that room would go up, right? So if we're using every bad job posting we've ever read to generate these new job postings, new air quotes, all we're doing is generating the same biases that always existed. Things like college degrees where they're absolutely not necessary. Exaggerated years of experience where we say 15. Why 15? I don't know. It could be 13, could be 17. I picked that number, right? And a series of other very common mistakes that we made over and over again that are actually sending highly qualified people away instead of attracting them to your job.
Yeah. No, well put. It's one of those things when I initially saw some of the articles dropping, some of the companies are getting sued, like ATS companies are getting sued. I'm assuming that, a lot of the biases that are incorporated into job descriptions could be, kicking people out of searches or out of like, booting them from the ATS and rejecting them. Um,
Well,
so
because
yeah.
they are the base data for this automated system. How do you reject someone from an application if you didn't tell the machine what you're looking for? And if
Hmm.
you didn't define that well, any AI assistant is going to take your really poorly drawn out description of what you want and make bad choices. And that's the consequence that these companies are facing right now is bad data, bad outcomes.
I completely understand. And I'll take a step back from recruitment because a lot of it goes towards leadership, right? Proper everything, right? Core values or company values, your mission. It really stems from leadership and the message that they put out. Now is a perfect little segue. You just released a book on a leader's guide to liking yourself while leading your people, right?
Yes.
I'd like to learn a bit more about finding humanity in leadership and maybe some of the lessons from the book.
Yeah, so the book is called The Bounce Back Factor, and it is about my journey, both being led by people who were never taught how to be leaders, but also learning how to lead myself through constant uncertainty. And you could say that I learned that in a rather unconventional way when I tell you that I packed up all of my stuff and I moved into a van for 3 years to basically live in uncertainty constantly because and you'll read this in the book is like that's the way I learn by putting myself into extremes and trying things and like pouring myself into every project. And so it was no surprise that when I wanted to learn to be a leader, I knew that I wasn't just going to learn by like taking an afternoon class on an online Wharton School program that I was going to have to learn the hard way. And ultimately, what I learned is a lot of it is common sense, but they are things that often go counter to traditional leadership, things like asking for help or changing direction.
And what do you think are some of the biggest things going on right now? Given all the change, maybe from the AI boom that we've had recently, what are some of the key takeaways that we could learn about just like leading through change and making sure that you keep your head afloat as there's so much change going on?
I think right now we're overcommitting to technology skills that we think will matter. And the reality is that we need to prepare people to be really good humans. And one thing that people will absolutely need in order to function in whatever is ahead, whether it's a full robot doing our job or mechanical hands, I don't know what's coming, right? But no matter what is coming, your people need to know how to navigate uncertainty with confidence because they will not be able to figure things out, come up with innovative ideas, or be able to guide each other if they are feeling uncertain. And the reality is that uncertainty is hardwired in us. Like the cave people who ran when they heard like a bristle underneath the brush, that's our ancestors. And the people who did not run don't have ancestors, right? That's what I mean by hardwired. It is literally innate in us to panic at uncertainty. And there has never been more of a time where you need to equip people with that skill.
Yeah, it's funny, and I don't mean to get too anthropological here or philosophical here, but saying a lot of these things are hardwired in us, and now we live in, I guess, the information age, right? That's what it's known as, and we are getting maybe an unnatural amount of information given to us, and we were chatting a little bit about it before the call, right? Like does that create more uncertainty, and is that the reason we should be investing in more leadership? Because like we have all this information and we need to adapt now, and then we have to kind of tell other words like, hey, don't worry, everything's going to be fine, I'm going to lead you this way. Does that sound about right?
100%. How could you not be tired? So here's some of the stats that always blow my mind. It's like the average person sees over 3,000 messages every single day. You think about the scroll, the email, exactly
I was
3,000.
gonna, you just blew my dang mind right now.
But then you layer this on top. The average leader makes 30,000 decisions. 30,000, right? And so, of course, they're overwhelmed. Of course, they're tired. And that's never going to be a great formula for figuring things out when you're not feeling 100% confident, right? You're going to fall back on old processes. And most likely, what I see happen most often is that people fall back to rules that do not serve them. They do the same stuff over and over again, expecting different results.
So, dang, you just blew my mind with all those stats. By the way, now I'm kind of like now trying to figure out all the things to maybe lessen it, all the different messages that I get on my face. You know, getting to inbox zero, organizing things, maybe putting filters on Slack notifications. Like we just kind of live in this era of constantly being notified of things, and you kind of start losing like what's a high priority and what isn't because you just constantly get asked to do things. So,
Exactly.
uh,
It's like you wouldn't expect you to have like the best workout leg work day ever at the gym after you spent all day walking, right? If you were literally doing leg exercises for 24 hours and then you went to the gym, would you expect to do like the best workout ever? Never. Why do we expect people to make great decisions after they are under that kind of endurance? Your brain is a muscle too.
Yeah. Oh my God. And wow, awesome analogy. I'm kind of I used to be a power lifter. I retired because of some of the things you're discussing right now. Like I hated the fact that I would not be able to walk after maybe squatting 400 pounds. I'm sure that is maybe a little too big for some folks, or maybe too little for others. But if you're going out for a marathon, you're not going to be able to. You're barely going to be able to walk the next day. And I guess those when it comes to soft skills, that is now a kind of like necessary thing to make sure that you're training for and making sure that you're not burning out to kind of get there. So what are some resources that maybe people can like use to improve their soft skills? Is it looking for like maybe mentors as well? Like what especially for these younger like folks out there, like what could be done to and by younger I mean maybe inexperienced folks, you know, like what can be done to really improve soft skills in this information era?
I know this is going to sound really anti AI. Nobody's going to like this answer, but I think it comes down to self compassion. That the first thing that you have to do is actually just be nice to yourself. And that means that you practice the skills before you try to teach it to anyone else. It's things like I mentioned, asking for help. So, managers, we live in a society where leadership is often associated with autonomy, that if you're the manager, that you shouldn't need help, that you should be able to do it yourself. And the reality is that good leadership, not management, leadership is never autonomous. It always brings other people with you. And so you have to realize that this compassion journey starts with you, but when they start to witness that compassion play out in your work, you're going to bring other people. It's things like cohorts for your team or dedicated time to asking for help. So something that we do on my team, we always have 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning or the end where someone can bring a problem and we all just pour ourselves into helping them solve the problem. It doesn't matter if it's about work. You can ask anything. It could be, my kid is really frustrating me and I don't know how to have this conversation with them. Or it's something as specific as, I really want to do a new book, but I don't know what I want to write about, right? And having other people fully dedicate their energy and attention to helping you starts to build the confidence to ask for the help next time. Because even there, we see a weakness and a consistency. Only 40% of people can ever remember asking for help at work. And that doesn't scare me as much as the fact that that means 60% didn't.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You're dropping some great numbers, great stats, by the way. I love what you just said because it reminds me of this thing that was told to me by an old mentor of mine, actually. He said, like, when it comes to leadership, you almost want to run your team as a, you don't want to have it be an orchestra. You want it to almost function as a ballet and have everyone like working together. And there's a lot of cohesion in there as opposed to kind of being the conductor and saying, like, no, do all these things. Trust me. Sure, that's a, I hate to say archaic style of leadership that works, but the more beneficial, leadership style, just from a visual standpoint, I guess, is you working with the team and you understanding everything that needs to be done, but also, relying on them and asking for help when needed. So I don't know. Thanks for bringing that visual back in my head.
No, and I think you hit on something is that if you can run your team militaristic at this point as troops, you're probably at risk of AI automation. If there is no
Didn't think
beautiful element, if there's no human element, you're actually just like creating the business case for making sure your people don't have jobs anymore. And that's not the business I'm in. And I know that's not the business you are either.
No, definitely not. I Wow, you dropped a lot of gems with us today, Kat. I want you to leave us with one last kind of impactful thing. You've talked a lot about humanity and just like when it comes to leadership or even being an employee. I'm not too fond of like AI replacing things. I love the fact that you still believe in the human component and the human side of leadership and HR. So yeah, just one more lesson that you've learned giving all these speeches and now, being an author and a blog and a content creator and a dog fan. Just had to throw it in there, but yeah, love to hear from you.
I think I would tell you that the thing that changed my life and how I felt about work was falling in love with problems. I think for so long, I always fell in love with the solution, right? I would learn to be a Twitter expert when I was a social media person. I'm learning to find expertise and how to's. And when I started to really feel like I was living my purpose and not just doing a job, is when I started to fall in love with the problem and solving it and how that problem impacts people and how it changes people. And so my encouraging words to everyone is like, you're not going to love every job you work at, but you should love the problems you solve.
Love it. Kat, amazing job. I look forward to seeing you give a speech in person. Please, send over a copy of your book. I'll get all the information now. Like I'm look forward to reading it because I love these types of books, and especially when it's people in the space. So yeah, can't thank you enough for joining us, and look forward to hearing from you very soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right.